Mr. Ataur Rahman Khan from Cyient India. So he's the director of additive manufacturing technology in India, and he was a scientist at ISRO. And he's a good friend. He's a good customer and a collaborator with Objectify. We have been working for almost 1.5 years together, and we have dealt with a lot of problems or problem statements from their end customers. So he'll be happy to express his views onto the topic. Athar sir, can you?
Thank you, Ankit. Um, Good evening, good morning, everyone. My name is Ataur Rahman. I am currently the director of additive manufacturing business at Cyient. Um, I started my career at Indian Space Research Organization as a scientist there, and I was working on solid propulsion systems as well as some ground testing facilities for nozzles for high altitude applications. That was the time that I first got introduced to additive manufacturing in a practical sense, right? And it kind of stuck with me since then, although my roles have been out of engineering after that. So I worked at Indian Space Research Organization for about 5 years. And after that, I worked in business roles as a senior business consultant at Cognizant, where I was a part of their manufacturing and logistics vertical in their consulting business. And then I worked with a couple of startups in leadership roles. One was in education space, and the other one was in healthcare. And after that, I joined Cyient when Cyient was planning of establishing their additive manufacturing formally inside the company as a new function. I've been with Cyient for about 2.5 years now, and I've seen the additive manufacturing business at Cyient grow from its very initial days. So that's a little bit about myself. Now, about the
Yes.
company, Cyient. Yes, thank you, Ankit.
Yes.
So I'll start off with briefly explaining about what we do so that you have the context of the rest of the things that I share with you. So Cyient is a solutions provider to clients from across industries. This ranges from aerospace and defense to energy to medical, transportation, heavy equipment, and many other industries. So what we have been traditionally doing is we provide design solutions to our clients. And in some cases, we also do low volume manufacturing. We have in-house electronic manufacturing capabilities as well as precision mechanical manufacturing facilities. Now, with this in mind, the perspective that I want to bring on the table today is as a solutions provider or as a buyer of services from additive manufacturing service bureaus, and as a seller of services and solutions to your clients from various who can be various OEMs or tier ones across industries. What are the things that we should be talking about when we talk about being an informed AM buyer? So some of the things that I have considered in our journey so far is when you're engaging someone in a business relationship, it's good to be clear from the start if that relationship is going to be a partnership or is it going to be a transactional relationship, because that would dictate the kind of effort and the time that you would invest with your business engagement with that particular partner. The other things to consider is for services, for example, what are the various ways in which you can do benchmarking of different vendors, and how would you select a vendor from a pool of vendors? How would you design the proof of concept parts and frameworks for communication? Ankit was earlier mentioning about requirements. So what framework would you follow to formalize those requirements? How would you define defects and deviations for an additive product, right? And how would you qualify the expertise of your partner in post processing testing? How would you, for example, rate their maturity in additive manufacturing? Would you use the TRL levels as a benchmark or a barometer, or would you design a separate scale altogether? So these are some of the things that we need to consider when we are talking about services. Now, when you're considering buying simulation tools, again, you need to start with deciding how do you benchmark different simulation tools that are available in the market. How do you check if that particular tool is compatible with your customers' processes and customers' requirements. Is the tool interoperable with some of the CAD tools that your customer might be using? What's the accuracy, and does the tool have all the features that today constitute the state of the art? Now, coming to materials, I think this is very straightforward. You look at what costs you can get when you're trying to source materials in bulk. You look at lead times, the customs and costs involved. You look at reactive materials, how to store them, how to dispose them. You look at metals and polymers, and what metals and polymers would you work with from your long-term point of view. And you look at the form of raw materials. So it is also possible for you to buy the raw material in its primitive form and have a supplier here make those filaments for you. So that could be another option. Mm-hmm. The third thing that you look at when you're talking about 3D printing systems itself, what you see on the technical spec sheet is really what you get in practical use. So how do you benchmark different machines with respect to their technical specification and actual performance? How do you decide on the expenses that you need to incur on the facility, the AMCs, the spare part lead time for the machine themselves, and what are the various warranties that you need to consider when you're planning of buying a machine or buying the machine? And the last one is the most important one, in my opinion, from a design point of view. So as a solution provider or as an OEM, when you give a design of an additively manufactured part or a conventional part for a service bureau or one of your partners, either for redesign or for direct manufacturing in additive manufacturing, who owns the IP? And the IP can come in various forms. It could be a design related IP, it could be a process related IP. So one of the things to consider when you're buying for AM, especially services, is you need to be very clear that you have defined this particular aspect right at the start of the engagement. Now, the second section on the slide, and I will go through this really fast, is basically a little bit more specific. That is, what additional requirements do you need to be really careful about when you are buying an additive manufacturing service, not for yourself, but maybe for your customer. So in that case, you need to absolutely ensure that the requirements are crystallized very, very well, because this can lead to a lot of problems later on. You need to ensure that your service bureau or the partner is complying with the certifications that the customer may require. You need to define the acceptance criteria for a part. For example, the confidence intervals on the tensile strength. What is the acceptable level? What are the acceptable levels of surface finish tolerances, etc.? These need to be defined very, very well in advance, and these need to be discussed and finalized. Then qualification of the machine and the process, right? PQR as well as MQR. These are two aspects that need to be critically looked at, so that you can have some confidence on your production process once you move to production. Is there a warranty that the manufacturer can issue on the service life of the parts? And what are the other suppliers' warranties and buyers' risk that can be there? For example, if you have a high mix, low volume set of components that you're sourcing from one of your partners, who bears the cost of the failure of the component, right? And so these are things that need to be discussed and framed into several rate contracts as well as partnership agreements when you're looking at buying for additive manufacturing.
So from the design side, as you have been doing a lot of legacy design work for a lot of big customers like Pratt & Whitney, like Boeing, Lockheed Martin. So how do you see from the design perspective to adopt additive manufacturing as one of the solutions for realizing those components, Atul?
That's a good question, Ankit. So I think traditionally the customers in the aerospace industry, we have found them to be very, very cautious and conservative because of the safety aspects that are involved in their most of their end applications. So so I think the challenge is where the design is done and you need to qualify the part for flight or for putting it on the aircraft. So that is where the real challenge is with some of these customers. And the lead times that are involved for certifying one part for flight is 3 to 5 years very easily. So
Mhm.
so I think yes, design is a challenge, but I think because design is still on a computer, because design is still a low cost activity, it is still something that the customers are very willing and very open to discussing. I think the
Mhm.
moment you shift towards production and you start talking about qualification and certification and the quality aspects of the part, and it's conformance to the acceptance standards with respect to repeatability and mechanical properties and other things, I think that is where our customers are more and more cautious, and that is, I think, as big a hurdle to cross to get that part into end use.
Mhm. Mhm. So yes, aerospace has been doing that extensive evaluation of the technology quite well, and partners like Cyient would be a great support for that evaluation itself, I think. How is your customer's journey from the prototyping to production, and what kind of evaluations, stage checks you work with your customer? Because you primarily work as a consultant to your customers, and you take them through that journey. So can you explain about the evolution with your customer itself?
Yeah, sure, Ankit. So I think we work with customers who are at different stages of maturity level when it comes to additive manufacturing technology. So we work with customers who just started exploring this technology and are looking at those mundane parts that Ian was mentioning just now as the first step of entering into this technology and seeing its benefits. And at the other end, we are working with customers who, frankly, are more advanced users of additive manufacturing than we are. So they have already certified parts, they have put them in flight, and they need help with stuff that they don't want to do themselves, and they need reliable partners. Say, for example, in helping them screening parts. So
Mhm.
so we work with customers who are at different readiness and maturity levels in the additive manufacturing spectrum. Now, the trends that we
Mhm.
are seeing in our interaction with all of these customers, some are consistent and some vary with respect to the customer and the industry in which they operate. But some consistent trends are, for example, even for prototyping, the customers' requirements and expectations are quite high. The reason for that is some of the stakeholders that are coming to us with additive manufacturing projects are actually trying to sell this idea internally within their own organizations. So if the quality of the
Okay.
prototype is not that great, then they will not
Mhm.
be able to do that. They will not be able to sell additive manufacturing within their organizations. So the
Mhm.
expectation level from prototypes as well has gone up. With respect to
Mhm.
production, I think more and more customers are consistently asking for evidence of expertise. Now, this can be in terms of examples of the previous work that we have done, but more
Mhm.
frequently, we are seeing that this is in terms of a proper demonstration of the machine and process consistency by doing coupons and by planning test builds and then making sure that the values that we see for our test coupons are falling within a range and falling within a
Mhm.
range consistently. So I think these
Yes.
kind of qualifications are becoming the norm before the customer actually gives you a part for production using additive manufacturing. Then
Mhm.
other thing I wanted to mention was we talked about customers who are just exploring additive manufacturing. So for customers at this end of the spectrum, it is very, very important that a supplier or a partner to these customers takes the role of an educator as well, because many
Mhm.
times your customer would come to you with a expectation of an injection molded part or maybe the surface finish of an injection molded part, but expecting the part to be delivered at the cost of a FDM part, you know.
Mhm.
So Similarly, they would have. I remember one. This was not a customer, but an internal stakeholder. When they had a look for the first time at an additively manufactured part, a metal part, they were like, "Oh, this is the surface finish that you get. This is not that great." so, so you need to play the role of an educator also to these customers, so that you explain the benefits and constraints of each of the technology, and you help them choose the right technology for their application. And I think this involves a lot of discussion with the customers. And last point that I want to mention is, needless of or at what stage your customers are in their maturity level, it is very important for you as their partner to listen, because many times we focus on the evident and we forget something that is not evident. For example, the customer can come to you and say that, hey, manufacture this part for me using additive manufacturing in metal. But then unless you understand the end application of the part, unless you understand the environment in which it operates, you will not be able to help the customer derive the maximum value out of that particular application. So I think it is very important that the partners listen to the customers and nudge them by asking questions and trying to elicit those unsaid requirements that the customer may not have, on the top of their mind, but which are very, very important from deciding the right course of additive manufacturing technology for producing that end use part.